Hi, y'all. So today we're going to be talking about levels of organization, whether you're on A day or B day. So make sure before you start listening to this video, pause it and go and do your attendance Google form so that you can get attendance credit for class today. Okay. Moving on, I'm going to screen share so that we can talk about the information you're going to be learning today about levels of organization together. All right, so first things first, the do now is going to be two questions. The first one is, what is biology? What do you think biology is the study of? Second, what is the purpose of organizing something, right? Why do you organize something? Think of any reason you can think of why you would organize something. For example, your room, your stuff. The learning objective for this class is students will be able to order the various levels of organization and identify the relationships between the tiers of hierarchy. Okay. So this is kind of a throwback to middle school, right? You guys learned about biotic and abiotic factors. An ecosystem includes both biotic and abiotic factors. Biotic factors are living, abiotic factors are non-living. So for example, over here, you can see biotic is pointing to the deer, right? The deer is alive and well. It is living, therefore it is biotic. Over here, you can see that abiotic is pointing to the water. Now, is water or has water ever been alive? No. Therefore, it's abiotic. Let's take, for example, if this fish here were to pass away and it is dead, belly up in the water, is it biotic or abiotic? Right, so the fish used to be alive. If the fish is or was ever alive, it is biotic. Abiotic things have never been alive. So think rocks, think air, right? Things that are not alive and have never been alive. All right, so these are some characteristics of living organisms. So first one is made up of one or more cells. So if you look at the red here, we're going to follow the red. Cells are the basic unit of structure and living and function in all living things. So for example, you're made of cells. Bacteria are made of one cell, right? Trees are made of cells. Fish are made of cells. They all have cells, therefore they are living. The second one is displays organization. So if you look at things, the red one, it says living things display organization, which means they are arranged in an orderly way, right? You're not just a sack of random cells doing random things and staying alive, right? You have blood vessels, you have muscles, you have bones, you have organs like stomach, intestines, right? They are all arranged in an order of how they work and in separate areas of your body to make sure that you're staying organized. Number 3, grows and develops. Organisms start small and grow bigger and develop as they get older. Quick question, are you the same size as when you were born? No, right? Because if you were born at this size, it would have been really difficult to give birth to you. And also, then there's no space for you to grow as you intake more nutrients, right? So organisms start small and grow bigger and develop as they get older. Another version of development is, for example, puberty, which you guys are also going through right now, right? You are going to, for males, you're going to grow approximately until you're around 25, and for females, around 20 to 21. Number 4, reproduces. Reproduction is the production of offspring, right? Something that is alive needs to be able to make offspring in order to continue the next generation of its species. Number 5, response to stimuli. Stimuli is kind of a weird word. Stimuli just means something that is stimulating or affecting you, okay? So living beings react to internal or external changes. So if the air outside gets really cold and you step outside, what happens to your skin? Right? You get goosebumps, right? Those little bumps on your skin, that's your reaction to the temperature change outside. Now, another thing is if you react to something internal, right? If you get an infection from a virus or a bacteria, what does your body do? Right? One of the things is that your body will increase its temperature, right? That's what a fever is. If your body increases its temperature, it's because it's reacting to the fact that there are bacteria or viruses inside of your body and trying to get rid of them, right? So if something is affecting your body inside or outside, you'll react to it. Number 6, requires energy. Living things get their energy from food. let's be a little bit more specific. So plants don't actually need to eat food, right? They can use the sun and do photosynthesis and then make their own food. Now, everything that's not an autotroph like plants, not an autotroph, right? Heterotrophs, they have to intake food, whether they're eating it or absorbing it like fungus, right? But they get their food and then they break it down for energy. Number 7 is maintains homeostasis. So down here in the red, it says living things have a stable internal condition that they maintain, right? If your body temperature is no longer around 98 degrees, then you're either going to get sick or you're going to be dead. If it gets too low or too high, you're going to end up dead. Okay? So that's just one example of an internal, right? You have to maintain an internal level of sugar. You have to maintain an internal level of salt also to stay alive. Number 8, adaptations evolve over time. So here you see organisms change over time to best fit their environments. The environment's always changing. We can even talk about climate change right now, right? The ocean levels are rising, which means more and more places are underwater. Now, if you are not good at swimming and the place you are living is slowly becoming an underwater place, are you going to be easier to survive or harder to survive? Right, you're going to have a harder time surviving. So the ones who can swim and then have a family and have kids who are good at swimming, they're more likely to survive and pass their genes down, okay? So they better fit the environment of an underwater space. Not good at swimming, then you aren't as fit for an underwater space, but you might have been good at living on land, right? So these are the characteristics of life that we went over. And at the bottom here, you can see an organism is anything that has or once had all these characteristics, right? It's like what I said about being biotic. Either you were or you are presently showing these characteristics, right? So you were alive or you are alive. A little quick thing about cell theory, right? Cell theory is, first of all living things are made of one or more cells related to the characteristics of life. And second thing, cells are the basic units of structure and function in organisms. Without cells, you can't have muscles, you can't have organs, you can't have tissues, right? So cells are the very, very, very smallest thing that can be alive. And then when they build onto each other, they can create different structures. Okay. The third one is all cells arise from existing cells, right? Life comes from life, right? So your cells came from your parents, right? A sperm and an egg met, and then they became your cells. So here are our levels of organization. So we're starting from the smallest at the bottom that we're going to go over, which is a cell. And the largest level of organization that we're going to hit is the biosphere, right? So if you have a cell and you have a bunch of cells put together, you get a tissue. And if you have a couple tissues that work together, you get one organ, right? So for example, a cell could just be a cell in your body, one of the tiny little things that has a nucleus, and that's it. A cell membrane, nucleus, and then it has some of its little organelles. If you have a bunch of cells added together, you can get tissues like muscles or skin. If you have a bunch of tissues working together, you can get an organ like a stomach. Okay. If you get an organ system, it means a bunch of organs are working together to do a job, and that could be your digestive system, right? That includes your mouth, your esophagus, your stomach, and then your liver, your intestines, both small and large, and then your rectum and your anus, right? That's your digestive system, how your food goes through and you get energy. You have a bunch of organ systems like your respiratory system, your circulatory system, your digestive system, your excretory system. All of those, like your nervous system added together, becomes one organism, right? So we are one organism that has multiple organ systems. A bunch of organisms, right? A bunch of humans, or a bunch of dogs, or a bunch of lions together, those are all one population, right? They're all made up of one type of organism. And then when you go from a bunch of groups of different organisms, if you have multiple populations, right? You have the lions, the hyenas, the giraffes, the elephants, the gazelles, the zebras. That's a community, all of the living organisms interacting with each other in an area. Then you have an ecosystem, which is the living things and the non-living things in an area interacting with each other. So the lions and the crocodiles in the savannah interacting with the water that they're drinking, right? And the biosphere is all living things on the face of Earth. Okay, so again, the cell is the smallest structural and functional unit of an organism. It's usually too small, so you can't see it with your eyes, usually. And it has this jelly fluid called cytoplasm, a membrane on the outside, and then a nucleus that's the control center. Tissue is the type of material which animals or plants are made of. So it has special cells, and when they're all packed together, they all do one job together. So here you have connected tissues, for example, things that connect your bones to your muscles, like ligaments, and bones to bones, like tendons. And then you also have epithelial cells, which are for your skin, right? Muscle tissue, which you can flex and see your muscles moving around. Those are your muscle tissues underneath your skin. And then you have nervous tissue, which lets you sense things. Organs are part of an organism that is typically self-contained and has a specific vital function. You won't have it if it's not vital, right? It's not necessary. So example is a stomach. There's different kinds of tissue on it, and when they all work together, they do one job, which is digestion. An organ system is a group of organs that work together to perform one or more functions. Right? So here you can see the digestive system that I explained earlier, and they all help you process your food and get energy. An organism is one individual life form. Population is a bunch of the same type of organism in the same area at the same time. So the example I wrote here is the human population in Texas, right? It's pretty big. A community is an interacting group of various or multiple different species in a common location. So here you can see the rabbits are interacting with the snakes and the fox and the birds. Who knows? Maybe the fox are just eating all of the other things. So they do eat all of these other three. Ecosystem is a system that includes all living organisms in an area as well as its physical or non-living environment. Okay, they all function together as a unit because they interact with each other. In the picture you can see there's sun, there's weeds, there's fish, there's frogs, there's snails, there's water, there's tadpoles, there's flies. Some things are living, some things are not living. And the biosphere is the zone of air, land, and water where organisms exist. So everywhere where things are alive is the biosphere, right? It's a sphere because the earth is a sphere. So if you look here, you can just compare the pictures going from an organism, which is an individual, to a population, so multiple of the same kind of individual, a community, so multiples of different kinds of individuals, an ecosystem, so different kinds of individuals interacting with each other and with the environment. And the biosphere here is a picture of the entire Earth. So I want you guys to answer the questions. Just for a quick check, which is smaller, a cell or a biosphere? Right, a cell is much smaller. A biosphere is the whole Earth. So a cell is just one little microscopic, you have to see it under a microscope kind of thing. Which is smaller, an organ or an organ system? So an organ is much smaller than an organ system because it's part of the organ system. Which is smaller, population or community? A population, because you have to take multiple populations together to make up one big community. Which is smaller, tissue or cell? A cell is much smaller because it takes multiple cells to make up a tissue. Which is smaller, biosphere or ecosystem? An ecosystem is smaller because a biosphere is all areas on Earth where life exists, and an ecosystem is just interactions in one small area of the biosphere. Okay, so that's it for today. Make sure that you go in and fill out your interactive notebook, and then you also complete the exit ticket. So the interactive notebook is section 1 on levels of organization. After you finish it, move on to your exit ticket and submit it to get your attendance and your grades in for today.